Thank you for joining us. You know, around here, higher education isn't just something you hope you can afford to give to your kids. It's a crucial wellspring of our region's economic and social life. And these days, it is front and center in the news as it faces daunting funding and regulatory challenges. Here to discuss that is our guest, John Marcus, a veteran Boston area journalist and editor who is the higher ed editor of the Hechinger Report, a 15-year-old nonprofit newsroom covering key educational issues. John, it's good to see you.
John, it's nice to be here.
As always. So, as of last summer, according to a Gallup poll, 32% of Americans said they had little or no confidence in higher ed. That's more than triple the number a decade ago. What happened, and how is that relevant to the current crisis in higher ed?
Well, let me take the second part of your question first. It's relevant because higher ed has made itself an easy target. And how it made itself an easy target was to continue to increase prices, even during an enrollment decline. Enrollment in colleges and universities has declined by 14% since 2010. 2011 was the last peak. And it's about to decline again. The number of 18-year-olds has gone down. People stop having children during economic downturns. The Great Recession was 18 years ago. So now colleges and universities face an even bigger problem. In spite of all of this, including the fact that they knew that this was coming, universities kept building and spending and borrowing and hiring. There were scandals, significant scandals. Penn State, Michigan State, USC, Varsity Blues. And just a whole litany of problems over a decade that universities couldn't fix. And part of the problem was, for that cost, consumers weren't really getting what they paid for. Fewer than half of students that go to four-year universities, as you and I have discussed before, fewer than half of them actually graduate in 4 years.
Right.
Dropout rates are very high. People take on debt and never get a degree, still have to repay the money. So higher education has created kind of an army of unhappy customers.
Well, into this context comes the Trump administration. As we're taping this interview, lawyers for Harvard are in federal court here in Boston trying to persuade a judge to put the brakes on the Trump administration's effort to revoke the university's ability to sponsor visas for foreign students. That could cost Harvard a quarter of its student body. The numbers are even higher at other local colleges and universities. What's at stake here?
Yeah, so what's at stake here is significant in Massachusetts. And love Harvard or hate it, love universities or hate them, including around here, international students, they are a key to our economy, and international students are a key to their revenue. So nationally, fewer than 5% of students nationwide are international. At some institutions in Massachusetts, Northeastern, it's 35%. BU, Berkeley, Brandeis, Harvard, 27%. These are all in the 30% or more. At the graduate level at Northeastern, 2/3 of all the students in graduate programs at Northeastern are international. So they are at great threat. They, to some degree, brought this on themselves. They have been addicted to recruiting international students as a source of revenue and enrollment.
Because these students tend to pay full tuition.
They pay full tuition, number one, and number two, we live in a part of the country where population isn't growing. So right. That was their recourse. It was easy. Go get international students. They'll pay the full freight. They'll fill seats. The number of international undergraduates in Massachusetts universities and colleges is up 20% in the last 10 years. The number of international graduate students is up 100%, doubled, because that's where universities make their money. So universities have, to some degree, created this vulnerability they're in right now.
Okay, you've laid out the basis here. Let's take our break. And when we come back, I want to try to look a little bit into the future. What happens if these bans essentially take effect? What happens to these institutions, and what happens to the rest of us if the business model for colleges and universities collapses? And we'll do that when we continue our conversation with editor-reporter John Marcus in just a moment. So welcome back to our conversation with John Marcus of the Hechinger Report. He's the higher ed editor there. Okay, so colleges and universities, you rattled off a number of local names that people will recognize. Bet Big, and base their business model to a great extent on these international students. Now the Trump administration is moving on them, and this is not going to evaporate like a tariff that they pull back on with a little pushback, right? What happens when this all starts to hit the bottom line?
Well, before the break, you asked what will happen if the ban takes effect. But forget about what Trump is doing. First of all, I think it's logical to assume that if you were an international student, even if there wasn't this crackdown, would you come here now? Just the optics are terrible right now.
Right.
And this new decree this week that all visa appointments have been canceled comes right at the moment where students who want to enroll in the fall are making appointments for their interviews. They all have to have an interview at an embassy or consulate.
Nice.
Even if that's reversed, you have huge backlogs now. That's going to affect the numbers significantly. Wow. But forget about Trump. Before Trump, there were really worrying trends around international higher education that universities and colleges, to be honest, didn't seem to be paying attention to. The number of international graduate students, which I mentioned earlier is a huge revenue source for colleges, was actually down in the fall. The number of new international students who are starting through their four-year process was down in the fall before the election. And the places that students now want to come here from are not countries like Saudi Arabia where they can afford to pay the full tuition, something on which colleges have been very dependent. They are coming from Latin America, South America, other parts of the world where they can't afford to pay the full tuition. So in order to continue to recruit them, universities and colleges now need to shift some financial aid. This is cutting into the benefits, the financial benefits to colleges of having these students.
So there's fewer international students who are likely to stay here and build businesses. What are some of the other potential and dire ripple effects on our local economy?
Well, that right there is huge. Our only natural resource is talent.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you see, and just look, you can physically see manifestations of this in Kendall Square and other kind of spin-off companies around universities that benefit from university research. Many of them also benefit from international students who stay and conduct the research, start businesses, employ local people. There are more people in Massachusetts with graduate degrees who were born outside the country than who were born inside the country. And that's a really important source of talent for us in Massachusetts. More broadly, to all of your viewers who might not think that this affects them, international students are $4 billion economic impact just in Massachusetts and 36,000 jobs. That's a lot. Even a slow decline in that number is going to have an impact on all of us.
All right. So the administration has been famously making demands on not just Harvard but other universities, and in many cases, some cases they're going along. In order to preserve their federal funding. In other cases, they're rejecting them. What's a university president who wants to see his or her institution survive to do?
I would not want to be a university president right now. I don't think you have much of a choice. But some university presidents think they did have a choice. At Columbia, for instance, where, as you might have seen at the commencement, the president got booed by her own students for capitulating to the Trump administration. So the broader, it's a two-part question. What's the moral responsibility and what's the fiscal responsibility? I think what Harvard is doing is sort of, digging the trench and saying, we're not backing down.
Well, they can afford to do that. They have a $58 billion cushion.
$53 billion endowment. 80% of it is restricted. So endowments are largely not well understood, including apparently by the Trump administration, which the other day said that they didn't want to allow international students to keep coming and fueling the endowment. Students do not pay into the endowment. That's donors and contributors. When the Secretary of Education misunderstands what an endowment is, that's worrying.
Yeah.
But 80% of it is restricted, meaning the donors gave it for a particular purpose, such as to support a particular professor, and it can't be used for operating expenses or to make up for the cuts in federal research funding.
John, our time is up, but this is scary.
It's surreal at the very least. And I'm not sure yet it's really dawned on all of us who live here how much of an impact it will have on us.
Wow.
Much more disproportionately than in the rest of the country.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Come back again soon. And thank you for joining us.